Hey everyone, this is Cody with BedWood and Parts, back again for another install video where we're going to be showing you how to install a RETROLINER kit. And today we are going to be putting a carbon kit in this 2015 Chevy Silverado. Stay tuned as we show you each individual step and show you how to put in a carbon kit or even a RETROLINER kit for a fleet side vehicle. Now, just like any kit that you're going to receive from BedWood, it is going to come boxed up, ready to go. Unlike with the typical BedWood kit, however, you are going to have a few extra pieces involved with a RETROLINER. So what you're going to want to do is, first off, inspect the box, make sure there's no damage. We do everything possible to keep from damaging your product in transition to you. But again, just in case, we always want to make sure that you overlook or take a look over everything, make sure that there's no damage to the actual kit itself. And the box looks good here, so we're going to go ahead and open it up. And take a look at our RETROLINER kit. All right, so first off, you can actually see here we have what we have as our base here that's going to have everything sitting on it. Unlike a BedWood kit, nothing actually bolts or screws into your actual pre-existing metal bed. What you can see here are aluminum C-channels. These will actually have weld nuts that slide into various locations along the actual C-channel that your wood and your strips will actually bolt into. So we're going to go ahead and just move this out of the way for now. Second off, you are going to have all of your bolts. Again, everything that you need to include or to put your bed together is going to be included in the box. So again, let's not lose those. And then of course you're going to get a thank you for your purchase. And once you are fully done with your BedWood kit or your RETROLINER kit, if you'd like to send us photos, we'd love to put those up on our social media pages. Now, another thing that you're going to receive in this kit that is unlike something that you would get with a BedWood kit is an end cap. So this is going to be at the very back of your vehicle towards your tailgate, and it's going to block off everything so that you don't see the ends of the wood or your bed strips. So it's very important. This is going to be one of the last things that we are going to need. So we are going to make sure that this stays safe and does not get damaged. After that, it is just like a regular BedWood kit. You are going to have your wood. And again, this particular kit is a carbon series. So this is going to be that nice black coloring on the actual BedWood. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get a knife, unbox everything here, and we'll see you back here in just a moment. So before we get started, I wanted to show you guys what a carbon kit's actually going to look like. So as we pull back our wax paper here, you can get your first look at the actual carbon. Now, this is not solely just a RETROLINER kit. This particular wood can be used in all of our kits, including our BedWood kit. And another question that we get about our carbon series all the time is this actually a hardwood? The answer to that is yes. So all of our carbon kits are a base ash wood, so it is an actual hardwood that is then finished with our carbon series. So again, the carbon series, you're going to get that nice matte black finish, and it is going to completely seal your boards just like with the Hydra Shine and the Hydra Satin that we've shown before. So it will soak into the board, cure it from the inside out, and then give you all of those protections such as your fungicides, moldicides, pesticides, UV protection, and an adhesion promoter. So again, just kind of wanted to show you guys what a carbon kit's actually going to look like. And each kit with carbon is going to get this wax paper that's going to keep from scratching up your boards and keep everything looking fresh. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to take our aluminum C-channels and we're going to unwrap these. These will go in various locations along the length of your bed. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna unwrap these, lay these out, and then show you guys how to install the hardware and get ready to start putting everything together. So again, these aluminum C-channels are going to go along your bed in between from the driver's side to the passenger side in various locations, as I said before. So we're just going to set these down and kind of get these in the right areas. And then as we start going through and getting our wood out, we can then go ahead and move everything to the correct locations and start getting our outer boards put where they need to go. So again, these just set directly onto your pre-existing bed. There's no drilling, no bolting. Again, everything is going to mount to these C-channels, and that is going to be the only thing that actually has any kind of bolting to it. So now that we have this, again, the main piece here is everything is going to be sitting directly onto these. So in our hardware that we received, and we'll go ahead and open this up real quick. All right. So in our hardware, you're going to get a mix between carriage bolts and your weld nuts. Now, these weld nuts will actually slide along your aluminum C-channels and lock in place from inside. Again, the important piece about this is make sure that you count your wood pieces before you actually start putting your weld nuts in, because you want to make sure that you get everything situated correctly and actually get the correct amount in each one of these C-channels. Otherwise, once you get started, you're going to work from the outside in. And the problem that we run into is if you don't count ahead of time and get the correct amount in there, once you get to the center, you're gonna be 1 or 2 short. Then you're gonna have to undo all of your hard work in order to put more of the weld nuts in. So again, always count before you go ahead and start installing. It's a good thing to take your wood and actually lay it out on a table, just making sure that you have the correct amount. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and move our wood here and our strips. And again, your strips will come pre-packaged as well, and we'll show that once we get to that point. But again, we're gonna move our wood, we're gonna move our strips, open up our bed just a little bit so that we can go ahead and get started installing this. All right, now when it comes to your weld nuts, so your weld nuts, and I'll get a little closer so you can see, are just going to be this nice little nut that you're going to get that is going to have just a little bit of a flange here, and that's what's going to actually sit inside the aluminum C-channel and keep it from actually coming up. So what you're going to do is you're just going to grab your C-channel, and it's easier if you kind of give it just a little bit of a space here, and it's just going to slide directly in. So I did take count. So we're just going to slide our weld nuts into the C-channel, just get everything kind of situated in, and then we'll go ahead and work on our spacing. Now, another thing that really helps is if you pre-measure where your weld nuts actually need to go. I did that on another video, and I'm going to show you guys the reason why it's going to be kind of nice with this particular one, because I'm not doing that with this one. So what we're going to do is like I said, we're just going to get all of our weld nuts ready to go. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we're just going to slide these in. And again, just as easy as that, we now have all of our weld nuts in. And again, we can just move these to the various locations that we need them to. So again, we're going to do that with each one of these. And then after that, we'll go ahead and get our first board in and go from there. Now that we have all of our weld nuts in, the first thing we want to do is get the outer board actually situated correctly, and then move to the other side and get that side in. So what you're going to do is you are going to grab your first board that's actually going to be for your wheel tubs. And what you're going to do is just situate this correctly. So we have the passenger side one here first. And this is just going to sit directly into your area. What we want to make sure is that we do not have any weld nuts currently situated underneath the wood, except for the ones that we actually need. So on these outer boards, there are going to be areas where at least one weld nut is going to have to be in place for this to actually set down and actually mount to. So again, we want to just make sure that we do have the correct number in place right now. And we'll move those in. Now at this point, what you're going to see is that sometimes you have to actually move things. Now this is where a T-handled Allen wrench is going to come into play. So we're going to grab our T-wrench and actually come right back. Now that we've got our T-handle, we're going to actually go ahead and start moving these aluminum C-channels into the correct spaces. Now on the outside edges, you are going to have flat washers that are going to go onto your carriage bolts when they drop down. This is just to make sure that they sit correctly and it doesn't ruin your wood. Now the reason why we want to use a T-handle is because you can actually maneuver those weld nuts a little bit easier with a T-handle, and when you go to screw everything in, it's just easier to have that that kind of spinning ability with a T-handle versus with an actual Allen wrench. But again, it's completely up to what you have available. But what we're going to do is, again, we're just going to move these to where we need them and just kind of get them centered up. And once we get that centered, we can go ahead and move our weld nuts just a little bit to where they sit down correctly. And once you get one, again, you're just going to drop that in and just kind of get that into place correctly. And we want to leave that loose to where we can actually move it, just so that we can get to the rest of them, make it a little bit easier for you. And again, having that T-handle makes it just a little bit easier when it comes to actually installing. And again, we don't want anything too tight, just enough so that we can get everything in place and still be able to move it, because eventually what we're going to have is we may have to kind of move things a little bit just to make sure everything fits correctly. And again, just make it to where the reason why we work from the outside in is so that we can adjust things as needed. And as you can see, we can get our spacing correct once we get it to the correct spot. And again, once we get to these inside edge ones, it makes it a little bit easier just so that you can be able to see. So just move things around. Now that we have the one side in, now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and grab the other side, do the exact same thing. Again, just tight enough to hold the bolt in place, but not to actually lock anything down currently. So again, we're just going to grab our other sideboard. And we're just going to place that, just like with the other one, right where it needs to go. And we're going to go ahead in the same way, just get the bolt in there and just lock down tight enough to go ahead and get everything ready to go. And then from there, we will go ahead and start moving our way in with each individual board. Now that we have our outer boards in, the next step is going to be just to kind of move these weld nuts just close enough to the edge, because what you're going to do is you're going to lay your board right on the outside of this edge, just where your weld nut kind of sits in the center, and then you will actually get your strips and start attaching those from there. So again, we're going to go ahead and get positioned where we need to, and then go ahead and put our first boards in on either side and start working our way to the center. Now that we actually have all of our boards in, all of our strips in except for the center board, what we're going to wind up doing is we're going to put the board in, go ahead and get our first strip put in, and as you can see, we've already got our weld nuts spaced the correct distance and in the right locations. So when you get to this point, it's very important to remember we still have these a little bit loose so that we can adjust these as needed. And what you're going to wind up doing is when you put this in, you may have to move things just a little bit to get everything to sit in. Inside of these grooves, there is a little bit of play. So when you start putting things in, if things start getting a little tight, if you have too much of a gap in your actual strips, just move everything towards the sidewalls. That'll give you a little bit more play for the center board. Once you get everything there, then you can adjust as needed to make sure everything looks proper before you tighten everything down. So again, we're going to grab that middle board, start putting that in, and then afterwards we will tighten all of our bolts down and get to the final step, which is going to be our end cap. now that we have everything screwed in and ready to go, before we tighten everything down, we do need to get our end cap put on. So again, the end cap we wanted to keep wrapped up, ready to go, just so that we didn't, bump into it and scratch it all up. So now we're gonna go ahead and unwrap it, and then go ahead and start getting it installed. So with the end cap, what this is going to do, this is going to allow you to not be able to see the back end of all of the strips or the actual end of the wood. This is actually going to bring everything together and make it look all professional and uniform. So we're just going to go ahead and unwrap this. And again, you want to be careful when you unwrap this because it is possible to scratch the finish on this while unboxing and unwrapping. And now that we've got it, again, this is going to come wrapped up so that you don't have any kind of issues with it. It is going to be in that same kind of wrapping that the original boards came in as well. So we're just going to open this up. And just like as if it was Christmas, you can just open that up just like that. So again, this is going to be finished in the same carbon finish. It's going to be all ready to install. Now inside of this, you will get these little areas where your screws will actually bolt down into it. So it is going to hold on. So if you're at this point, if you've been looking at your strips going, hey, what is actually going to take up this last hole? Your end cap will actually bring everything together. So this is just going to slide in place. You may have to lift it up just a little bit because with all the weight and everything, this is what everything's going to sit on. So again, just going to get it all lined up nice and tight. Make sure it sits in there correctly. And again, this is going to keep that from showing all of those inboards. And just like that, we have it ready to go. We're going to grab our T-wrench and screw everything in the rest of the way. Now with our end cap put in, we are going to go ahead and start tightening down all of these bolts. Now that everything is in place and we got all of our spacing correct, our end cap's in, we are just ready to wrap everything up, tighten everything down, and then we'll be done with installing our RETROLINER kit. And then it's just time to clean up all of our little fingerprints, show it off. That we have fully put in a carbon series RETROLINER. Again, these RETROLINERs are fairly easy to install. Usually takes about an hour to an hour and a half. With this, if you have to keep taking things out and repositioning, it will take a little bit longer. Each vehicle is going to be a little bit different. And again, this is a natural product, so you may have to, finagle a few things just to get it to sit in correctly. But again, this is the carbon series. This is going to be the matte finish carbon series with the matte black. And this is available for all of our different kits, both our RETROLINERs and our BedWood kits. So if you're interested, give us a call here at BedWood and we'll definitely help you make a one-of-a-kind bed for a one-of-a-kind vehicle. And with that, guys, till the next time, we'll see you then.